In my years of researching and reviewing credit cards, it's become extremely clear that American Express has the most loyal and passionate fans. And for good reason. American Express is responsible for some of the most powerful and highest earning setups that you can build. However, that power comes with a downside. That's in the form of credits and benefits that go unused and extremely high annual fees that can add up in the long run. That's why in today's video, I want to take a direct look at building an optimized Amex strategy and then have an honest conversation as we go along if the benefits, credits, and earnings are worth it, or if it could turn bad at the end of the day and it's a risk that most people shouldn't consider even taking. When talking about the most effective Amex strategy, I think it's only fair to cover it from all sides. That'd be starting off with how you build your core earnings setup, talking about those cards that have to be in any American Express rotation. Then we'll talk about the experiential or secondary credit cards that you could add on in the Amex family. I'm going to show you what makes American Express unique in the synergies of building out this potential setup, and then give you my honest opinion on the hurdles you'll face if you try to follow this setup for yourself. I'm also going to use some real numbers as I build this out, so you have an actual idea for how this could play if you were to try it in real life. So let's start at the very beginning. The core cards in an all-in American Express wallet strategy. If you're going to go this way, I don't see how you can build out your wallet without taking on the Amex Gold Card. At $325 for an annual fee and a standard sign-up bonus ranging anywhere between 60 and 100,000 membership rewards points, the Gold Card is well known for its 4x on dining and 4x on grocery store categories. It also comes with a range of credits that I like to value roughly at half of their face value. Now, because Amex just has a few options for core cards, the Gold Card fits right in. And as I like to look at a map of spending categories, I'll show you one right now on my screen. And I'll show you the approximate spending values for what a family of four would typically outlay on purchases that could be charged to a credit card. This data is all courtesy of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and I understand that you and your family's expenses may be higher or lower than these numbers on your screen, but the point is to give you an idea and a starting place for spending categories and how you'd integrate these cards on top of each other. As you can see, the Gold Card used as the solo card in a setup would be really inefficient by itself. I have highlighted, of course, groceries and dining, and some people like to use the 3x directly on flights, but after that, it gets pretty bare bones. Still, even if you use the Gold Card and just took this example family spend, you could expect to earn around 87,873 membership rewards points. And if you like to use transfer partners and would value those at 2 cents a piece, well, that would result in a cash valuation for travel of around $1,757. Not a bad place to start on a $325 annual fee card. However, let's keep things moving. No one who's building an all-in Amex strategy is just going to get the Gold Card and use that as their only credit card. That's why the next card to consider is the Amex Green. And I'll tell you very briefly why I actually don't recommend this card for pretty much anyone, even if you're going all in on an Amex setup. Now, the Green Card could be a play for you if you take advantage of the earnings categories, which are 3x in travel, transit, and dining. Obviously, having the Gold Card, the 3x on travel, and the 3x on dining are going to be pretty irrelevant for you, as you're not getting an increase in dining and you're not getting much of a boost in many travel categories as compared to what the Gold Card currently offers. However, some people love to rely on this card for transit, but it's not a situation where most people spend enough in transit to make it worth it. And it's one credit. The $209 Clear Plus credit doesn't personally move the needle for me, especially when we talk about the other cards on this list, which either have that credit or provide a similar benefit. So for the vast majority of people, I don't recommend adding the Green Card in, and I recommend moving on to the next core card option. That card would be the Blue Business Plus credit card, a $0 annual fee card that is a business card, which we'll talk about next, has a standard sign-up bonus of just 15,000 membership rewards points, and allows you to earn 2x flat on non-category purchases up to $50,000 of spend a year. Now, let's address the elephant in this American Express room. This is a business branded card, and quite simply put, there are two factors in play when you consider this here. One, it is truly not difficult to get accepted for, especially as a $0 annual fee card. Business cards are really branded as such in nature to differentiate themselves from personal cards, usually offer better sign-up bonuses and a few less consumer protections, but they don't necessarily have to be issued to people with big businesses. You could be walking dogs, doing tutoring, doing rideshare, coaching on the side. Any of these would likely get you approved for a business card as that bar is quite low. However, some people take it a step further and they'll put all of their personal expenses on a card like this to earn those 2x membership rewards points. This does technically violate the terms and conditions. It says you're supposed to use them for business-based purchases, but there are tons of data points out there of people not doing this, Amex being aware of it, at least at the customer representative level, and simply not caring. I don't personally employ this strategy, but I'm not going to tell you one way or another whether to pursue this or whether not to. I'm simply laying it out as an option that others have pursued and including it because it can be a core piece of an Amex strategy. If you go in on the Blue Business Plus, taking advantage of that 2x on all other purchases, that would bring a typical family's earnings total up to around 116,852 membership rewards points in a typical year, resulting in a travel value of $2,337. Quite a big boost. Now, pairing these two cards could be enough for a lot of people. However, if you're going in on an Amex strategy, it makes sense for a lot of people to go for the most premium card, the American Express Platinum card. Now, you could stop with just those two and keep your annual fees really low. But if we're going to stack again, we're going to start to jump pretty considerably into the credits, benefits, and experiential lifestyle parts of Amex cards, and also take on an extreme annual fee, $895 with the Platinum card. Now, this card is important because it does add to your earnings categories, getting you 5x back on flights booked direct, 5x back on hotels booked through the portal, and 1x back on everything else. This is really only going to impact you adding into the hotels and the flights category, and it'll result in a minor bump in the expected earnings of a typical family throughout the year. Now we're looking at close to 124,000 membership rewards points, worth around $2,479 in travel value. However, the biggest part of bringing this card in is those credits and benefits. We're talking about adding in lounge access. That is the best in the game. You can combine Clear and TSA PreCheck on this card as both options are afforded to you, and you get things such as a $200 incidental credit on a selected airline to help reduce the cost of things like baggage fees or in-flight food and beverage purchases. Now, this card also comes with hotel status with Marriott and Hilton, and car rental status at the three big rental dealerships that you can really access anywhere. This card transforms your travel. It makes travel actually enjoyable and, keyword, experiential. However, it does critically raise our annual fee level. Now, for all those benefits, we're looking at $1,220 in net annual fees. This is where I want to stop. Going any further past this point, which we will in this video, can get pretty ridiculous, and I wouldn't recommend it for everybody, especially because you start to experience potential for credit overlap, and that annual fee ticker just keeps climbing. In fact, a lot of people would do really well with a combination of the Gold card, the Platinum card, and potentially the Blue Business Plus, and you could still keep your annual fees at a level that I bet a lot of people out there could justify. However, proceed with caution past this point in the video. I'd only recommend it for those who travel frequently, are extremely organized and financially meticulous about getting value back from their cards, and those who consider using a card management app to help make sure they're squeezing the most out of the credits and benefits. I use Max Rewards myself and offer a discount code for 25% off that paid version, but you're going to want something like that to make sure you're getting your money's worth and not losing a ton of value by skipping stuff throughout the year. Now, here's a few options specifically in hotel and airline cards to bring in, and let's talk about what they do to your total setup. First, on the hotel side, your best option that Amex offers is likely going to be the Hilton Honors Aspire card. You could look at the Surpass card, but that card for less annual fee requires quite a bit of spending to get the most possible value from it. And you're going to already want to do a lot of your spending volume on your core Amex setup that we just talked about. So, given the Aspire card, you're getting a few things like credits and benefits to offset a $550 annual fee. Those credits are namely a free night award that's uncapped. You also have $400 in Hilton Resort credits divided up semi-annually, $200 in flight credits, and another redundant $209 Clear Plus credit. However, I think the biggest benefit of going this route is getting Diamond status. Diamond status offers a bunch of things, but what really stands out to me would be the highest potential for room upgrades, a daily food and beverage credit or continental breakfast, and executive lounge access at the properties that offer it. However, when I look at bringing the Aspire or even over to the Marriott side and bringing the potential Amex card there into an Amex-based setup, I really think that if you've got the Platinum card, you've got a lot of your hotel experience covered. That's because the Platinum card offers you a slightly lower level status at both Hilton and Marriott, for example, and you're going to get most of the benefits that these big cards would provide you without the risk of adding another $550 to your annual fee load. However, I'm much fonder of adding an Airline card into an Amex-based setup. When I look at the range of Delta cards, which are Amex's co-branded airline partner, the clear choice is the Delta SkyMiles Platinum. The earnings categories aren't much to speak of, but the benefits really set this card apart and are different than most of what you've got in a core Amex setup. You're going to be able to add an $150 Delta Stays credit, a 15% off benefit for every Delta SkyMile you redeem, a few other rideshare and Resi credits, free check bags, and most notably, a companion certificate after your first year. A lot of people will be tempted by the Delta SkyMiles Reserve card. However, personally, if you're building an Amex-based setup, again, the Platinum card is going to give you that lounge access that you desire. And the Delta Reserve card doesn't offer much more excess value in the way of things other than lounge access, which the Amex Platinum already has you covered for. I'd highly suggest saving on the annual fee, taking advantage of most of the other benefits on the SkyMiles Platinum, and being really happy with that as a potential airline option in this setup. Now, we've talked about core setup, additional airline and hotel cards, and the synergies and the pros and cons of adding those two options. However, let's talk about the final considerations of even leaning in and rolling the dice on a high risk, high reward setup like an Amex-based wallet. First, the pros. I didn't mention sign-up bonus, and that was on purpose. When we talked about card value, I wanted to show you how much a typical family could earn on a yearly basis because that's going to outweigh the annual fees that you have to carry to hold these cards. Sign-up bonus is huge icing on the cake, but that only hits early on. Regardless, adding some of these popular cards, you're looking at targeting an additional $100,000 on the Amex Gold, up to $175,000 on the Amex Platinum, and something like $150K on a potential Hilton Honors Aspire, or over $100,000 on a Delta SkyMiles Platinum or Reserve card. That would come in huge chunks as you build this setup out and would be worth thousands of dollars in additional value and then further experiences for you and your family. The next benefit would be building that core setup and then having the extensive transfer partner network on your side. When you start to add in co-branded hotel and airline cards, you're getting big point injections there to potentially pull points and really create big redemptions in specific brands that Amex supports like Delta, Hilton, or Marriott. The best part about this is synergy. All of these cards work really well together, and while some credits overlap, if you're smart about it, you can strategically plan to get cards that have different credits to add more to your experience and less repeat. However, while those are some real strengths, let's talk negatives, starting with affordability. If you keep to just a core setup of a Blue Business Plus and the Amex Gold and the Amex Platinum, you're looking at $1,220 in annual fees. If you add the SkyMiles Platinum on top of that, you're up to $1,570. And if you add the Hilton Honors Aspire card, well, that's over $2,100 a year. There are lower level card options, but unfortunately those don't play quite as powerfully. You really are going to be tempted to reach for those higher tier cards. Second, I touch on this briefly, but in my real world experience, adding more credits and benefits at the beginning is really good and really beneficial. but as you go, becomes diminishingly less so. You start to encounter overlap, difficulty tracking them, and simply the difficulty of actually using those credits through your normal spending habits. That means lost value on the table, and that's the value you were expecting to eat away at those annual fees. Those are the two massive ones that stop most people from really building this out. But there are a few other smaller ones that are certainly pain points nonetheless. First, there's card family language. Amex makes you climb the annual fee ladder in their travel family or in their Sky Miles family, for example. You have to get their cards in order to capture every single sign-up bonus on the way. Going all in on Amex also tends to only work for bigger, higher spending individuals and families. If you're working with just one or two people that you're supporting on your lineup of credit cards, mathematically, you're often not spending enough to have those higher multipliers work in your favor, and it just doesn't create as much value. Last but not least, this is exhausting. It's going to take a lot of time to track, a lot of time to manage, and if you forget one big credit or benefit, well, your value could be evaporated for most of that year. So that's a ton to think about. But where do I land in all of this? Well, for those of you who follow the channel, you already know I'm super value oriented, and I lean on the side of being cautious when adding to my wallet setup. That's why Amex has really been the last issuer that I've struggled to fully embrace. My general approach with Amex as I stand here is to go step by step and add cards only when they make sense. I'll absolutely be taking on a lot of these cards over the next few years in my journey. For me, a lot of these Amex cards could be on the shorter side. I may hop in and out, targeting higher sign-up bonuses and focusing on more of a churning strategy rather than a long-term commitment with those annual fees in mind. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If it helped you out or you just thought it was interesting, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more. And if you do, I can't wait to see you in the next one.